He has a laundry list of accomplishments, which I'm going to list out. He is the vice president for the Dallas ACLU. He's certified by the Department of Justice for the awareness and training and the Red Cross for disaster relief. He is currently the director for United Sikhs. The United Sikhs is a non-profit, non-governmental human development and advocacy group organization affiliated with the UN and USAID. He's done work in many different disaster relief operations, such as the tsunami, hurricanes, such as Katrina and Rita. He's been to South Asia and Indonesian quake. He's done so many of those with those disaster reliefs. He's also the board member of the DFW Civil Rights Committee, a civil rights coalition for North Texas. And he's a graduate from University of Texas at Dallas, and he's currently working as a real estate specialist in commercial and residential properties. So I present you Mr. Singh, who's going to be talking about 1984.
Gurvinder's going to get his check later for that beautiful introduction. I appreciate it. First and foremost, I want to thank everyone for taking time to partake in such a beautiful event, because it's events like these that disseminate the truth. And the truth is what is not heard, unfortunately. Many times when we do look at the media and look at the various apparatuses that we have access to, because we don't want to delve into it, and because it's difficult. The truth is difficult to hear, the truth is difficult to bear, and it's definitely difficult to act upon. This topic is definitely very dear to me because I'm a Sikh. I'm a human. When a human suffers, all humanity gets degraded. As a Sikh, I'm taught that I have to be an activist. If I'm not an activist, I'm not a Sikh. You cannot serve the Creator by ignoring His creation. I cannot serve the Supreme Being by not serving my fellow man, my fellow woman. If I see a deprivation or a lack of education, if I see lack of access to water, or health, or hygiene, or shelter around me, and I stay quiet, because peace is in my neighborhood, or because my life is at ease, then Guru Nanak Sahib Ji has said that jail jeeve pat lakthi jaye sabe haram jete kich khaye. That if you live a life that is devoid of honor and dignity, then everything you eat is filth. That doesn't mean that my children are doing well, getting an education. My wife has a great job. I can wear decent clothes. I can drive a great vehicle. I've gotten an education, that I've done well for myself. That's not what a Sikh believes, and I believe that's the very fundamental tenet of what Americans do not believe. We believe in the basic concept that you help your fellow man and your brother and your sister in the time of crisis, in the time of need. And that is how we all move forward. And I want to reiterate, because even in our community we call what happened in '84 an aberration, or we call it a riot. It's very popular. I was looking at the Indian media, and even now, because in November is when the atrocity happened, is when the genocide was perpetrated, they say the riots of 1984. It wasn't a riot. What's a riot? A riot is spontaneous. A riot is when one group typically, or two groups, cause damage and wreckage. But they're suppressed. They don't have the advantage of being supported by the government. They don't have the resources from the government. They don't have the blessing of the government. It's just like what happened during the days of Hitler. The night of the broken glass is called Kristallnacht. A German officer is killed after he forcefully sends Jews, evicts Jews out of Poland. And what happens? Following the night, thousands of Jews are massacred and taken to concentration camps. But the media states, oh, this is because of the heinous act committed. A German officer was killed, so everybody all of a sudden just got very excited and very ticked off. So every Jew that they saw, they felt it was their enemy. Every Jew that they saw, they decided to kill. Every woman they saw that was a Jew, they decided to rape and maim and hack. And every child that they saw who was a Jew, they decided they didn't deserve to live. Why? Because one German officer was killed, so every German could not bear the thought of any Jew living amongst them. That's what they wanted us to think. That's why it's called the night of the broken glass. It's the glass broke, and what happens when the glass breaks? It shatters. But no, that's not the case. That's not the case. It was an excuse. It was an excuse to exterminate a community. It's called ethnic cleansing. Idi Amin has done it. Slobodan Milosevic has done it. Pol Pot has done it. Hitler has done it. And Indira Gandhi has done it. What happened in 1984 when, on the pretense that terrorists have taken shelter in Harmandir Sahib, which is our holiest shrine, it's akin to Makkah for a Muslim or the Vatican for a Catholic, that the pretense has what? That 30 or 40 terrorists are hiding in the Harmandir Sahib. So what do we have to do? We have to send 150,000 military personnel. Let me repeat the number. This is what the government has issued. They said 30 or 40 terrorists have seized the Golden Temple, which is popularly known. And what did they do? 150,000 army troops, military, helicopter gunships, amphibious fighters, lethal gas is used. And what's the pretense? That they have weapons? In the Harmandir Sahib, read the Christian Science Monitor. Read what Joyce Pettigrew has said, that she described the attack not to eliminate a political figure or a political movement, but rather to suppress the culture of a people, rather to attack their heart, to strike a blow at their spirit and self-confidence. The handwritten manuscripts of my gurus. To a Sikh, a guru is akin to what Jesus is to a Christian, or what Muhammad is to a Muslim. So something handwritten by Jesus, something handwritten by Muhammad, if anybody were to desecrate it, no Christian or no Muslim would take it laughingly. Nobody would enjoy it. Nobody would say, yeah, here's a few more manuscripts for you to burn and desecrate. But that's what happened. If you want to take out a few individuals from a place of worship, you don't go attacking 40 other places of worship on that same day. You don't attack those places of worship on the day of the martyrdom of the fifth Guru, Guru Arjan Sahib Ji, when thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of Sikh pilgrims will be visiting those shrines. Those individuals were there on the Monday before, on the Tuesday before, on the Wednesday before. You don't pre-plan these activities, as General Sinha said, who was actually told to attack the Harmandir Sahib in 1984. General Sinha is not a Sikh. Everybody I'm going to quote you today, they're not a Sikh. General Sinha, who's in charge of the Western Command, and as per Indian military standards, the charge of the Western Command takes control of the entire military when the chief is to step down. General Sinha said no when he was ordered by Indira Gandhi that you will storm the Golden Temple, that you will attack the Golden Temple, that it is your duty. You are the general of the Indian Army. You know what he says? He says the army action was not the last resort, as Prime Minister Indira Gandhi would have us believe. It had been in her mind for more than 18 months. This is a general of the Indian Army. When did the so-called terrorists reside or take shelter in the Harmandir Sahib? It was a few months before, not 18 months before. So then what is General Sinha talking about? Shortly after the Akali agitation of 1982, India had an emergency declared. And who spoke up vociferously against the emergency? Sikhs spoke up. So retribution had to be had. The army begins rehearsals of a commando raid near Jakarta cantonment in the Doon Valley 18 months before anybody is taking a residence in the Harmandir Sahib, where a complete replica of the Golden Temple had been built. Absolutely amazing. A complete replica has been built so you can start training on how to destroy a place of worship. So when there is nobody firing from the vicinity of the Harmandir Sahib, as everyone who's trying to defend it has been killed, for 3 days after, you take handwritten manuscripts that were handwritten by the Gurus themselves, and you burn them, or you steal them, and you still haven't given them back after 30 years? Which terrorists are you afraid of now? Or is it the handwritten manuscripts that cause fear within your minds? Because what can you do when you have the manuscripts of a people? What does Milan Kundra say? He says that if you want to destroy and liquidate a people, you start by destroying its culture. And in its place, you erect a new one. So when they have the handwritten scriptures of my gurus, they can write what they want to write. They can institute what they want to institute, and then they're going to give it back to Gurvinder and say, hey, this is what your gurus have said. This is what your faith professes. This is what you believe. Because look, it is written in your manuscripts. It's been 30 years. What else can be the reason? They say, oh, we're still trying to contain them. We're trying to locate them. We're trying to find them. It's only been 30 years. I mean, it should have probably taken a few more years to find a few books and manuscripts and paintings and relics and artifacts. My brothers and sisters were killed in cold blood that came to worship. Their hands were tied behind their head, behind their heads, behind their backs. And they were shot, one bullet, to 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 people, because a Sikh's life was not even worth a bullet each. As is said by the army majors, that we will line these bastards up and we will kill them. My sisters were raped in the precincts of the Harmandir Sahib. They were unarmed. They didn't have AK-47s or bombs. 6-month-old children were picked up by the legs and thrown against the walls. Why? Because they were Sikhs. They were a Sikh. How dare you come pray and worship? This didn't happen only in Harmandir Sahib. This happened in Muktsar Sahib. This happened in Damdama Sahib. This happened in Taran Sahib, where they brought in tanks. Where was Sant Pindramwale then? Who's called the biggest danger to modern India? He was one man. Let's take the devil's argument. I'll be the devil's advocate and say, yes, he was. He was in on the side. You were justified in taking him out. What were you doing in 39 other historical shrines? What were you doing killing thousands of innocents? What were you doing raping women and killing children? GKC Reddy says that Operation Blue Star will go down in history as one of the biggest massacres of unarmed civilians by the organized military of the nation. In fact, you can quote me, it's the largest military operation a country has